Welcome to ToV Live. It is Valhalla time. Welcome everybody on this Sunday night to the ToV live stream, aka the ToV podcast. If you're listening to this afterward on the Audiosphere or on YouTube, welcome everybody. Have we got a show for you tonight? I am, of course, Ryan, Tales of Valhalla. We got Jason, Rocco Robotics. We have Sir Joe Crazy. We have Jeremy, the Elysium Collate. And we have two guests who have been on the show before, Mike and Ken, OEAO, and Matthias Maccabeus returning to the show. Welcome, guys, to the show tonight.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Oh, hold on.
I had to check. Wait, what time is it? Oh, okay. Well, it's morning somewhere. That's
Give me
that's
jet lag.
to say.
Oh.
No, glad you guys can make it. They're here to talk a little bit about ScapeCon number 3, which will be in August this year. Mike, of course, has helmed ScapeCon in the past, and he's here to give us a little bit of insight on that event. Ken as well will be talking about it, and also we're gonna start talking about that right away as well. And we are going to also get into a little bit of Thormun's journal lore and look up take a look at the what is it, the Wolf Squad, the Anubian Wolves. I think it's Anubian, right? Anubian Wolves Squad.
Yeah, Anubian, yeah.
And take a look at that later. So how about we just get started with, and also hello Tommy Adams in the chat. Welcome to the stream, and all of you watching live tonight. Feel free to comment, ask questions, because we'll be looking at them as well. So let's get started then, right away, with this main topic tonight, which is, of course, ScapeCon 3. I myself and a few of us went to ScapeCon last year, had a fun time, we talked about it, but we're going to go a little bit in depth about how this all got started with Mike, as well as what we are going to be looking forward to for ScapeCon 3 this year. So how about we just start with that first? Mike, tell us a little bit about ScapeCon. Here, I'm just going to bring this up real quick on the screen. So this is the initial announcement. ScapeCon 3, if you're watching this on YouTube, and of course all links will be in the description below when it comes to information on ScapeCon, if you're watching this on YouTube, on the Tales of Valhalla YouTube page. But ScapeCon 3, August 9 through 13th, 2023 in Indianapolis, Indiana. And of course this is just basically as I like to call it, the Heroscape Super Bowl, or the Super Bowl of Heroscape, really, and it is that intense. But how about we backtrack a little bit, and Mike, just tell us a little bit how you started this whole thing.
Yeah, so as some people may know, I helped out, and I should really put this in quotation marks because I didn't understand how little I actually did until I started running ScapeCon. So I helped out at Gen Con, but it was really Ken was much more in charge, as well as a couple other guys, Lone Wolf and Bo, Raider 30 and Lone Wolf were really, the three of them were really running it, and I helped. But again, I helped. I helped with some events, and I helped with maps. I picked the pool the last couple of years that we ran Gen Con events. And essentially, COVID hit. Obviously, nothing happened in 2020, and then COVID was still a problem. I mean, obviously, it's still around now. But in 2021, Gen Con, Ken probably remembers this as well. Like, Gen Con was super weird about, like, we might allow events, we might not, we might have limited, I think it was limited space, or we might not even allow people to play games in person, right? For 2021.
Yeah, they wouldn't tell us how much space we could have. It was just bad. It was just, I mean, and in their defense, COVID was a thing that everybody's still trying to figure out.
Right.
Yes.
So it was like, if I remember correctly, it was end of March or beginning of April when, like, and again, for whatever input I had, but like we had to make the call, right, of like, are we going to run events in Gen Con in September when we don't know how many people we can have there? We know nothing about it. Gen Con won't give any like information, concrete information about what's going to happen. So we decided to cancel events, and then like the next day, my dad, we were out running errands, and it just came to him. He was like, why don't we just do our own thing? Why don't we just like try to recreate like the events experience, but let's kind of take the best of both worlds, and let's model this after not just Gen Con events, but we've been to a lot of different gaming conventions, a lot of different gaming tournaments over our lives, over the last 10, 15 years. So like Dice Tower Con, which is now Dice Tower East, is a great example of a super laid back, community like vibe, and everything's right there in one place. You're in a hotel gaming. It was just kind of like, well, even stuff as small as, at Dice Tower East, they have free water towers, right? With cups there for you to take. Like even that was like instantly like, we got to have that, So it was just like learning from all our different experiences, trying to put that together into a single place where it's like you can play Heroscape, but you're also hanging out with everybody. Everything's in one place. You don't have to get in your car at all, which you didn't have to do at Gen Con if you paid for a downtown hotel, which was, a couple $100 a night. It's just, let's try to get that whole experience with reasonable rooms, and let's just do it in one place. We didn't necessarily have to do we had to do an indie. I guess, again, we didn't have to, but it's just like Walt's there with the terrain. And as an organizer, it's like when everything else can go wrong, I know one thing for sure every year is that Walt will be there with the terrain. Like that, he has never failed, and he's just amazing for doing that. So knowing that, like, yeah, I've got 32 maps all set already, we've got to build them, but the terrain's there, so we don't have to cart the terrain in our car from Connecticut. So just like stuff like that, and it's a central location. People are used to going there. So Indy was pretty much the place. And then it came down to let's contact hotels, which my dad did all that. He did a lot of work, especially that first year, reaching out to a lot of hotels, and a lot of them just ghosted, didn't respond. And basically there were two main ways you could get the space, or really three main ways, but really two. One, you could just pay for space at a hotel. Second, and more common, was you had to guarantee a minimum number of rooms, which we didn't want to do because we had no idea how many people would come, and we didn't want to try to enforce like, hey, everybody can only put 2 in a room or something, like if you want to jam four or more people in a room, go for it. If you want to stay in Airbnb somewhere else, go for it. Again, that's just how we did it. And the one where we're doing it now, the location is great and terrible. It's great because it's right by the airport, which is super convenient, free shuttle from the airport. That's amazing, right? Terrible is there's no food options in the area. So if you want food, it's like this wasn't downtown, but the benefit of this over the downtown is you weren't paying a couple $100 a night plus $20 a night for parking at whatever hotel. So it's just like all these had to weigh, and every option was going to cost money. It's just, so we decided that the best bang for our buck was to run it at this hotel because it's close to the airport, and we worked out a deal where it's like we get the ballroom for free as long as we just buy enough food, and especially now we're buying more than enough food, and they're catering food. The food's very good. So that's how it started, and that's why, because there were some complaints after the first year from one person in particular about the fact that, the food was a requirement. It's just like, but that's how we've rented the space, is that's how we pay the hotel, and that's how we get the ballroom for free. And this year we're getting both of their meeting rooms. They only have this one ballroom plus the room we're eating in, plus these 2 meeting rooms, and we've got the 2 meeting rooms for free as well this year. So we're literally taking over the hotel for like 5 days, which is awesome. So yeah, I mean that's the short story of how ScapeCon got started. And then really after that first year, just like the overwhelming response was, other than like maybe a couple people, like the overwhelming response was like, this is just so much more relaxed and such a different environment than Gen Con. And if you really look at like most events, like for other games, I can't think of a single game that has their big event at there's very few that have their big event at Gen Con. That's just not really a huge thing. Most games, like all the big games have their own events, right? And I know we're not a big game, and I know we're not a huge community. And I know for some people they would prefer to still be at Gen Con, but just for such a large part of the community, are like Heroscape only people, or like Heroscape primarily. And even like, DeRoche, Gordon was like, I like this so much more than Gen Con, even though he would go play X-Wing at Gen Con. He was like, yeah, I'm good not doing that. I'd rather do this. And so like when somebody like that is saying like, I'd rather do this, it's like, okay, like, we kind of have something here. So after that, it was just basically like, we've run another one since. It went well. It went better than the first. I think there was a misunderstanding when I posted an initial post that wasn't as positive as it could have been about like what we were changing for the next year. But like you have to understand that was in the context of me thinking ScapeCon 1 was great, but all these things are going to be better and there's going to be zero issues. And then when there were issues, most of which were out of my control and unforeseeable, basically, some involving hotel or whatever. That's the context of that. It wasn't that ScapeCon 2 was bad or like rough or anything. It was just like, okay, some things and especially a couple things that like I thought were going to be ironed out and all set weren't then, but overall it's still like for 95% of the attendees, they didn't know about any of it. So like, and that's great. That's how it should be. The attendees should just have fun, and I'm, so that's the long story short, and that's how we got here. And that's why we're taking a bit of a different approach. We've got Chris's software this year, which is going to be amazing for keeping things moving. For those who haven't used Heroscape.org, it's just such a fantastic site. Yeah, it is.
Let me pop that
so
up
well built.
quick. Right here. There it is.
Yeah.
Heroscape.org. All right, ScapeCon 3 on now. Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Man.
So the army builder is fantastic. Even the partial card scoring, especially for Delta events, that is massive because Delta, like, it's hard to know instantly who's ahead or how much points you have left. Because like I'm used to, if I see 4 Mara Warriors on the board, I'm thinking 50 points is left, right? But in Delta, if there's 4 Mara Warriors on the board, that's 110 points. That's more than double. So especially for partial card scoring at the end of a game, that is just a lifesaver where you can just enter in how much lives left you have on a hero that now costs a different value. It's going to instantly tell you, okay, you got 2 lives left on Gilbert, who's now like 150 points or whatever. Now I know, just instantly, I know how much I have left, and it's just phenomenal. So between that and then the tournament software is also phenomenal. We've been using it for our Massachusetts events, and it's just been great. So really looking forward to how that's going to just help us keep everything moving, and it emails out pairings to people. You get it directly, so there's no like waiting in line to see your name on a sheet and then figure out where you are. It emails who you're playing against on what map, and it randomizes the maps automatically for us. So what's going to be great about that is we're like all 4 copies of a given map are going to be next to each other. So you're going to see like I don't know, let's say you saw Highways and Dieways. I'm not saying this is a pure that's in the pool, but just imagine you saw Highways and Dieways listed. All 4 copies of Highways and Dieways are going to either be next to each other, or 2 will be on one table, 2 on the other. They're going to be so easy to find this year. It's going to be great. So just all that logistical stuff is going to be, just hopefully, and I'm saying this, and hopefully a million times better. So that's the long story short. It's 3 full days and 2 half days. It's really 4 full days of Heroscape. We start at can't remember when we said we start. If we start at like 4 on that Wednesday this year, and we're going to go till like 2 or 3 on the Sunday. So that's literally like 4 straight days of Heroscape, and if that sounds great to you, I recommend it. If that doesn't sound great to you, I don't recommend it. Like, it's pretty much that.
You gotta be prepared for that type of thing. But yeah, and I really big kudos to the hotel too. They are very gracious hosts. They were last year, and I'm sure they will be again this year. So yeah, that's
just to clarify, when I say issues, like overall, the hotel was still phenomenal. It was just like some of this was just also like there were issues with like food running out, right? And it's like it's going to only be worse this year, except I think we've got it solved. If basically had it happened like last year, right? So it's just like that small stuff, and yeah, I mean that's it. Again, overall, hotel is phenomenal. It really couldn't be better. So.
And what I wanted to ask too was when it came to ironing out these things, I mean, you kind of expect if you're approaching like new ground on something that's never been tried before in this type of format, you might run into issues. And how many people is like ironing that out? Is it just you, Mike, or is it like you and Ken and others, or how does that process go when it comes to ironing that stuff out?
So hotel issues are like my dad gets all the credit for that stuff. I'm aware of it and I know what's happening, but he's the one that takes care of it. And that's always been the deal with my dad and I, right? From the very first day, it was like, you take care of Heroscape, I take care of the hotel. We split it 50-50 and we just handle business, right? And so he gets all the credit for that. I get nothing, no credit for that, but that's fine. I mean, that was really the rounds. The rest of the stuff is mostly, I would say, myself, but I would give most of the credit actually to Chris Perkins with his on several aspects with his site. Again, can't be overstated how much that helps. Ken is going to be helping run like the actual tournaments there, and he's very good at being mean and saying, guys, pick up the pace, and guys, finish your games, and stuff. And same with Brianna. So between him and Brianna running things, like the two of them are gonna run it with an iron fist, and I love it. So
I'm gonna feel that pressure.
That guy. Yeah, because I always say, like, even I'm just the type of guy that where like I'm telling everybody else, like, if you have an issue with your opponent, call a judge. But the first thing I do when I have an issue with my opponent is ignore it, and we just continue, right? And like that's just like it's a disconnect, and that's why I also hate being in the judging position of having to be the bad guy. And I love the preparation, all that stuff, but I don't like being the bad guy, and I like having two people that I know are very good at being strong and not really caring what people think. Not that they don't care what people think, obviously, but they're both totally good with saying, you got to pick up the pace or whatever it is. We got to get the next round rolling. You got to be there on time, right? So this year it's like if you're late, if you're late on to registering, which you really shouldn't be, because now registrations are also online. You can do this at breakfast on your phone, right? So it's like, but if you are late to submitting your army and registering, you're going to get a round one loss. We have to keep the day moving. We can't be, having like, oh, do you know where so-and-so is? Go check his room. Oh, he's not there. Like, can somebody call him? Like, that was great. And that was nice. But with like 64 people, we got to keep it moving, because it's a snowball effect, and it's a pain for the hotel when every day we're like, hey, we've got it. And again, props to the hotel, but the last 2 years especially, it was like, hey, guess what? We said lunch was going to be at this time. We got to push this back half an hour. We got to push this back 45 minutes. And now they're scrambling, trying to accommodate. And it's not fair to the hotel, right? It's not fair to other players. So it's just going to be hopefully a lot more of a streamlined process. And part of what's going to be great this year is every day is symmetrical timing-wise, other than Wednesday and Sunday. But even then, I believe it's because Wednesday's only dinner and Sunday's only breakfast. I believe every meal time is supposed to be at the exact same time every day, because, and we'll talk about this, in a little bit about the events, but basically Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are all exactly the same structure. So different events every day, but the structure is the same, which is also just my end and on the tournament organizers end, going to be really great. And on the players end, I'm hoping it's really great, because that you know, you don't have to try and memorize different days and stuff. Sure, events are different, but the timing is always the same. It should make everybody just fall into a nice rhythm and of consistency of, you know, if I'm playing a Thursday afternoon event and a Saturday afternoon event, I know both start at the same time, right? So I imagine Ken's internet dropped, which is why he left. So
and he's back on.
He's back.
And that might happen for those of you listening retroactively. But that's all good. Things like that happen. It's fine.
And I realize I'm talking a lot right now, so I will shut up. But basically,
it's
that is
good.
like the long story short.
And
that's the reason we have you on this show.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and
So we can give Ryan a break.
exactly. So I can actually think through this. No, it's if any of you guys have any other questions for Mike, let me know. I did, and now I lost it, but I want to address comments real quick because we have a couple of comments here. Let's see here. We have Justin commenting saying, "My brother just destroyed me and unmatched. So really hoping this can lift my spirits." Well, I hope Justin it does. And if you're not signed up to ScapeCon, and this is one thing I do want to emphasize too. That everybody should be on the ball when they're there, when it comes to getting to your matches and everything. But at the same time, because a lot of us were very new last year, do not be afraid to ask questions. If you don't know something, people will let you know and inform you as nice as they possibly can. So that type of welcoming environment is something that I loved with everybody. Let's see here. And Tommy Adams says the food there is great. Yes, the food is pretty good last year. And G Busy says ScapeCon, exciting stuff. Yes, we have. We're going through this information so people can know about this. And so, any other questions from you guys before we move? Because I want to talk about events. Anything else you guys want to think of? Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
1 second. Yeah, last year, this was just crazy to me, like in a good way. But like last year, we had probably 8 to 10 people that this was not only their first Heroscape convention, but it was their first Heroscape event, their first Heroscape tournament, right? Like ever. Which I know, like I think 3 of you, last year's was your first like Heroscape tournament, right? I'm not sure Jeremy, but I know Ryan and Joe.
Yep. No, this is definitely my first tournament. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that was awesome, but it was also like, wow, that's a lot of new people, which again is great. I'm so glad people are coming back. So yeah, don't be. It probably is intimidating if this is your first Heroscape event ever, because like it's a lot. But the people are so welcoming, and this year I think we're gonna try to get like even just like yellow like neon jerseys or something for the judges, like or vests or something. That way it's like instantly like you have questions, you'll see a guy with or a girl with yellow. And you'll instantly know it's maybe, and it's up in the air, but it could be a possibility. Just that every way, everyone knows instantly. Like if you got issues, you can take care of them. But again, just general questions you can ask anybody, and people are just so good. So it's why it's worth running it. If the people weren't good, I wouldn't be running it. So
let's get leather jackets for the judges with big Heroscape logos on the back, calling them like they're the boss or something.
Let them wear shades.
Just like I'm the Valkyrie right here.
Dark
Come
shades.
see me.
Yeah. Oh, and before I forget, I forgot to plug one thing with Mike as well. He has a podcast called Casters of Valhalla that has been around for a while. Really gives a lot of detail into Heroscape and how to play it. Goes very much in depth. So I do want to plug that. It's not in the link in the description below yet because I forgot about it. That's one link I don't have. But after the podcast is over, I will definitely be putting that. So anybody listening retroactively, you'll be able to find it in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube, or just look up Casters of Valhalla on Google, and I'm sure you'll find it via Spotify. Or whatever. So definitely check that out. So I did want to plug that in. If I forget later, there it is. Besides, before moving on to events, you and Jason, Jeremy, Joe, do you guys have anything you want to ask? No.
No questions, but I am excited to see what this year details. So.
All right. Well, how about
it was a good event.
how about we hop into this
because the best idea.
Because this is basically new news. This is something that hasn't been talked about before. The events for this coming ScapeCon 3 this year. So, Mike, spill the beans. Let us know what this is about.
Yeah, so I was hoping, realistically, I knew it wouldn't be up yet, but I was hoping like maybe event schedule could be up and stuff, but it's just not done, and we don't want to rush it. So May 27th is the official date where all the side events will drop, and one of the 5 events we're talking about will drop, and that'll make sense, once we get there. But essentially, there are the weekend is built like this. Wednesday is the Three-Headed Hydra team event, just the one event on that Wednesday. It'll start. I have to check when it starts again. I don't remember, but we announced it a little earlier. That way, people could book flights accordingly if they want to play in it. So it's essentially teams of 3. You're playing 3 1v1 games simultaneously against the other team, and it's essentially a simultaneous best 2 out of 3, right? So it's just such a fun way to do teams. 2v2 is fun as well, but those games take longer, and that's one of the bigger things is they just take longer. I remember running team tournaments. I judged the last couple team tournaments at Gen Con, and it's just more demanding time wise. So Three-Headed Hydra, and there's just great experiences of it's 1-1, and all 4 people that their games are finished are watching this final game between 2 people with their tournament, their team win on the line, right? It's just a cool thing, and I get to yell at my friend and my dad when I win a game and they both lose, and it's great. True story of both the last 2 ScapeCons, but anyways, not the yelling part, but not the yelling. But
and just for people who don't know, explain a little bit about what Three-Headed Hydra is.
Yeah, so it's basically what I said, but there's a little bit of a pairing process where we have our 3 players with our 3 armies. You have your 3 players with your 3 armies, and it's just a very simple. You roll the d20. So let's say I'm Team A, and let's say Ken is Team B. I'm making decisions maybe for Team A. He's making decisions for Team B, right? And so maybe my team is Ryan and Joe, and maybe Ken's team is Jason and Jeremy. I don't know why I spaced Jason and Jeremy. So anyways, I might say, okay, I'm Team A, I ban 1 matchup. So maybe I say, okay, Ryan can't play Ken, right? Because, his army matches up poorly into that. And then Ken would pair all 3 of his, all 3 matchups based on that one condition. The first team gets the one auto, you can't pair this matchup, but then the second team gets to pair all the matchups accordingly. It's pretty balanced because then we actually finally get to choose which of the 3 maps, because we'll have 3 different maps, and so then we'd get to decide which map each of these 3 matchups take place on. So it's kind of a cool balancing factor of our worst matchup, or maybe we have 2 good matchups into one army on your team, so we'll ban the one army that doesn't have a good matchup there, so we know we get one good matchup there, right? So we should have a good chance into that. The other team can decide matchups, and then we can select maps accordingly, and that can be a pretty that can matter between the glyphs that are on the maps, right? These, we've got different glyphs on different maps. So maybe my army is really good if I have the move glyph. So I'm gonna, by being Team A, I've got the choice of which, if I can give myself the move glyph, hopefully, but maybe that map isn't so good for me in that matchup. So it's just some interesting, I'm making it maybe sound more deep and complex, but it's just a cool little, balancing thing. And it lets you bring some more units that are a little more niche and a little, less general, right? Whereas if you bring Knights of Weston, you're always going to be fine because, pretty much they're always going to be good, right? Whereas Warriors of Astra are absolutely horrible into range, but amazing into melee. So just there's this interesting thought of Samurai, right? Samurai are a lot better in Three-Headed Hydra than they are in normal, because in normal they get shredded by range, but in Hydra it's well, they might not, all 3 of their armies might not have really strong range components. So it's just interesting. It's just fun. It's just a fun way to do a team tournament. And this year, I guess we can spoil it as we go. I'll pull up the point limit. So we're actually doing it as Delta this year. The last 2 years we've done it as B+ and under, which again forced you to use like lower ranked units. And this year we're doing Delta, which is similar-ish. It's going to have a different meta. We're doing Delta mostly to mix it up. It'll be a different. You'll see very different armies this year than you did the last 2 years. That's because Delta just has even though points should be more balanced, you're just going to see very different armies, I think, this year. So we're doing 480 points in 18 figures, and that's for each army, and you can't duplicate any units across an army, right? So if I have, I don't know, one squad of rats, then Ryan can't have any squads of rats. So that is going to be Wednesday.
Sounds fun.
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And by the way, I think we're having a small, I don't want to call it an event because it's not an event. I think we're having a mini event / mini game all con long. Details to be announced because I got to make sure that it's all straightened out and squared away. But trying to add some other things to do, aside from just Heroscape and all the, other board games that people will be playing, especially at night, right? Night tends to be some time for like other board games or like even video games. I know we had like a melee set up but anyways, yeah, so there might be other stuff. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday is pretty simple. I don't remember exact times anymore, but essentially there is one championship. And each championship is a Swiss of 5 rounds, right? So you play 5 rounds, and then it cuts to 4-1s and better. So it's a tough cut. You've got to go 4-1. If you lose 2 games, you're out. And alongside that will be one side event. And so if it's a classic championship, there will be a VC side event alongside it, and vice versa. So if there's a VC championship, there will be a classic side event alongside of it. After that 5 rounds, and the side event will be uncapped. Any number of people can play in it, and so this is a big deal. Do not feel pressured to play in any of the championships you do not want to play in. The part of the reason is of doing it this way is that all 3 championships are treated equally, and if you want to play in one but don't want to play in the other 2, if you don't want to play in any, that's also totally cool. Just play side events. You'll have a good time. And I guess to back up, just in case anyone missed the announcement, we're doing a World Championship / Tournament Champions on Sunday. It's a closed qualification event, and there are 2 ways to qualify, kind of 3. Basically, the top 4 of each of the championships on Thursday, Friday, Saturday all qualify. The winning team of Hydra on Wednesday will also qualify, so that's 3 more people. So that's technically 15 different people, but there might be some overlap. And then the any wild card spots, so there's automatically going to be at least 1, but there might be multiple if anybody like qualifies multiple times. Just go to the person that has the most wins across the weekend. So this encourages you to play out events because your win-loss doesn't matter. So if I'm 0-1 in a side event, I might still play that out to try to get 3 wins, right? So I don't expect the side events to feel like cutthroat this year because each morning one, especially, is alongside a championship that's going to, you auto-qualify from that if you can top 4 it. So I'm hoping side events feel pretty laid back, and the emphasis is really going to be on fun and different experiences this year. But that's the overall framework of the weekend. And we'll have side events alongside the world of the championship on Sunday as well. So it's not like if you don't qualify, you don't play on Sunday, But this is just this is a cool way to just say, and we'll talk about formats in a second. But basically, in most big games, you have to, at their World Championship, you have to do well in different formats, right? If I'm playing Flesh and Blood, a card game I love, if I go to Worlds, I have to play Blitz, Constructed, and Draft. I have to play 3 different formats, and if I bomb in Draft, I'm not going to make cut. I'm out. So I've got to be able to do well in multiple different formats. So this is very much the same thing, and you'll see what we've done here to do that. But again, do not feel pressured to play in any of the championships, because if you don't like one, don't play in it. Play the side events. You'll have a great time, and you can qualify via the other championships, 3-Headed Hydra, overall wins. etc. So, and again, we'll have prize dice and such for just winning side events. So go play those too. It'll be fun. But anyways, basically you have the 5 rounds of Swiss of the championship alongside one side event. If one's classic, the other's VC, vice versa. Then you go to the top cut of all 4 ones and better, and that's in the afternoon, starting around 2-ish, I want to say. So after lunch break, and we'll have the top cut alongside 2 side events. I'm pretty sure each day it's 1 classic, 1 VC during that afternoon slot. Dinner break, top 4/finals, depending on how many people qualify, etc. for championship, alongside probably 1 side event, because a lot of people play other games at that point. Maybe 2 side events, just depending on interest. Probably just gonna be 1 during the night slot, right? So that's like looking at 4 different side events to choose from every day, plus the championship. So a lot of different things to choose from. I hope that makes sense. It'll make a lot more sense probably when I post it, but essentially, again, championship all day pretty much. And if you don't want to play that championship or get knocked out, if you don't want to play it, you can play 3 different side events. You can play morning, afternoon, night. And if you don't make it to cut of the championship, you can play afternoon and night side events. And if you get knocked out before dinner, you can still do championship, most of the cut, and then a side event. So it's, I guess, kind of long days, but I mean, what else are we doing at ScapeCon,
Yeah, well, you're definitely not there to sleep,
You play Heroscape.
There's still about 10 hours between the end and start, so that's plenty of time, not that I ever go to bed right at that point, but...
You go to ScapeCon for eating and playing Heroscape. That is it.
I think I probably averaged about 5 or 6 hours last year, so... Does that make sense? I probably didn't do a great job explaining that. Again, it'll make sense when I just lay everything out.
Right. When it's listed.
It's a good spoiler.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's nice. I like how you implement where it's like, someone might think, darn it, I didn't win a championship, so I might not qualify for this big tournament on Sunday. But if you have someone who qualifies that has overall wins, I think that's a nice little thing. It's almost like, I imagine like qualifying with points on a NASCAR race almost, to where you might not win the race, but if you keep on going down the track and getting as much laps as possible for points, that it's almost that effect, to where it encourages you to keep on playing and try to get those wins, even if you might not win that particular tournament. You still might get enough to edge forward on Sunday. So I think that's a very good thing. For sure.
And a different way to do it maybe would just be overall wins total, no auto qualifications for any of the big events. Mm-hmm. My goal here is really to try to keep it so that people aren't trying to just farm and try hard the side events. If it's all just wild card, it's like, if I see all the, a bunch of the top players in this championship, I'm just going to bring the best army possible and destroy the side events that day, right? So I'm trying to keep like the tryhards a little more focus on those championships, because we had considered even, maybe you can't play all 3 to try to make sure people are playing the side events too or whatever. But then I was like, no, the people that want to just play the championships, they'll have fun. They'll have fun doing that. Great for them, that won't be me. I'm probably going to play 1 of the 3 big championships and that's it, Mm-hmm. It's just a lot. So, so that would be a different way to do it. But, and again, this is the first, we've never done anything like this. We'll see how it goes. This might be 1 year and done in this format, or maybe it just needs to be tweaked a little bit, or maybe it'll go great. I have no idea. It was just like, it was just a crazy idea. So
just do it. Yeah. No. And so now when it comes to or did you have something, Jeremy, that you wanted to ask?
No, there's agreeing.
Okay.
Let me, before we go on, I do have to credit 2 people, Earl of Sandwich and Gucci Boost. The 3 of us have really been working on events together. Ken's been working on one specific one, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Okay.
The coolest one by far.
Okay.
But the overall event schedule, making sure all of this work, and my dad to an extent as well, running all this by him, and he's basically the sanity check because like if we're coming up with something really crazy and stupid, like my dad will be like, no, that's dumb. So he's a sanity check, but really Ben and Gucci deserve a lot of credit for making this. Like the overall this structure was my idea, but then like how everything was going to fit together has been very collaborative with the two of them, and we had talked extensively about different, before I finally came up with this one, we had gone through a bunch of iterations first of like different ways to structure things, and they've put in a lot of work and they deserve credit, so they'll of course be credited
for sure
after ScapeCon. So
for sure.
But go ahead.
No, that was actually going to be part of my next question is what the process of getting all these events started. I'm sure it's been a long time in the making, so I was wondering, how long it's been taking and with who it was. So you answered half that already. So yeah, explain how long that's taken and where you all started with that.
September.
Okay. Basically.
Yeah, so, I mean, ScapeCon was in July, and August was everything is up in the air right now, and we don't know what's going to happen with this product that may or may not have released.
Yeah, the crazy.
And yeah, it was just wild, and we were like, okay. And so it was really September because I think signups started in September, and we instantly had a ton of people, and that's when I started, working. And Chris started on his software in August because he just reached out to me. That the whole way that went down is basically Chris reached out to me in August and said like, hey, like I have software skills. Like, is there anything you think I could help with for ScapeCon? So like, shout outs to Chris for just like volunteering this. And I was just like, can you? Do you know how to build a pairing program, right? And that's ended up spiraling into what we all know as Heroscape.org. But that was, and really like that was kind of the impetus was him asking. It was just like, yeah, like we could really, with how many people we're possibly going to have, we need a better system, for instant and reliable and automatically taking care of everything itself. So. But yeah, September has been pretty much September, October-ish. Probably September was when I started working with Ben and Ari. So Earl and Gucci. So
community is still going strong. It's good to see. Yeah. Now for this event that Ken's built up, explain a little bit about that. Then I'm interested.
Well, first. Let's spoil the three formats first. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're spoiling all the championship formats tonight, right? So we've already spoiled Hydra. For those that missed it, it was 480 points, 18 figures. Each team, each army is going to be that much. Thursday, we're doing Delta. We're doing Delta Rule of 12, which I don't believe there's been a Delta Rule of 12 event run before. Rule of 12 means you can only have up to 12 of any given figure. So if you bring 3 squads of 4th Mass, that's your 12. If you bring 4 squads of Vinoc Vipers, that's your 12. You don't have to bring 4 squads, obviously. It's just, that's the maximum. So we're doing 510 points, Delta points, of course, and 18 figures. For those that might not know, Delta's a repricing project that Chris Perkins, Veggie, and Doc run. So just they adjust point values to try to balance out units better.
And Heroscapers is it Heroscape.org or Heroscapers.org?
Heroscape.org.
Heroscape.org. There's calculator for that for Delta points. Is that right? Yeah. So that makes it very convenient. Yep. All right.
It makes it so much. It used to be a spreadsheet, and it was just obnoxious to use. And now there is an army builder where you just toggle on VC or toggle on Delta or both if it's VC Delta, and it's instantaneous. It's amazing. So Friday, this should probably come to no surprise to anybody. We're doing reverse the whip. Not everybody loves the format. That's okay. Play side events. Again, you don't have to play it, but there are a lot of people that really love it. It's been a staple of the community. It's the most Heroscape event. It's the event that's unique to Heroscape that no other game runs.
It really challenges
Keyforge
you.
But
so it really does challenge you.
Yeah. So Keyforge kind of runs. Keyforge runs something similar, but Heroscape did it first. So it it is Heroscape. It's amazing. So 480. Well, nope. Not 480. 460. That's a 6. 460 points and 18 figures. So get started on your Versa Whip armies. I haven't built a single one yet. So
real quick in the chat, Chad Paris says, "Reverse the Whip is so hard. I always dislike playing with any figures that I don't bring."
Like I've got 8 armies built already, just so you know.
Yeah, you sent me one though, and not great. So
It did lose his first try, so
yeah. Who could have thought? All right, Saturday. Speaking of VC, we're doing V cheese. Just bring the V cheese. We're doing 455 points and 20 figures. Shout out to Veggie and Chris for coming up with it, because I basically just messaged both of them and said, "Hey, two of you figure it out. Tell me what the points and figure limits are that are going to make for a really, a diverse and healthy meta." So that should be really fun. So that'll be on Saturday, V cheese, and then Sunday, World Championship. Again, we will have at least one. I think we might have one or two side events alongside of it, so people will be able to play Heroscape regardless. Good players are not going to make it into the championship just based on the basis that there are going to be 64 people there and only 16 spots. So don't feel bad if you don't make it.
Right.
I very well may not make it. I probably won't make it. And that's fine. So another cool thing we're doing this year. Live commentary. That's right. Stream with live commentary. Commentator's booth will be in one of the boardrooms, one of the extra rooms we've got from the hotel this year. So
do you have volunteers, or is someone else going to do it? Is someone just going to be here to that?
I don't know yet. That's to be figured out later. Okay. And I got to double check with Hound's Rule that he has it all squared away, because I believe he is. So that'll be streaming on his Twitch.
Very cool.
So that'll be awesome. I'm so looking forward to that. But that's also a staple of other gaming events, right? Like if you like, there's always live coverage with commentators of any big championship. So I will be more than content to commentate the World Championship, right? Like I'm good, especially because the format is freaking sweet. So we have, so Ken has been a huge part of this process. That's, why I dragged him on here tonight. He came on very willingly, but
he's a friend of the podcast. He's been on before, so
yeah, exactly. So Ken has been a huge help with this, because we are doing draft and we are doing preset draft pools. You cannot bring any of your own figures. You've got to come and play, and all of the games in the top 16 will be with the exact same pools. So it doesn't matter who you're matched up with. It don't matter who you're matched up with maybe, but everybody's playing with the same pools. So we'll have to assemble 8 of the exact same pool. Top 8 is going to be 4 copies of a different pool. So we've got 4 different pools, 1 for each round, single elimination. It's going to be a ton of fun. So it's going to be complete
wild.
It's like I said, you got to be able to win 2 different types of events, right? Every other event all weekend is bring your own army. Three-Headed Hydra is a little different because it's the team aspect, but still every other event was bring your own army. As long as we're not taking up too much of your time, I figured Ken and I could talk maybe about how we're building these pods, because we're not spoiling the pods yet, partly because they're not done. 2 are done and 2 are not done, but they're close. They're very close. So it's been a lot of work. It's been a ton of fun though, putting these together. So lots of trial and error.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get on in a second. I just want to address, there are some questions popping up in the comments.
Absolutely.
Let's cover these real quick. Okay. Tommy Adams says, what were the points / limit of 3 HH?
480 and 18.
480 and
480.
18.
Delta.
480 and 18. Yep. Delta. There you go. Okay. You got that, Tommy. And then Christopher Perkins, actually on the chat, saying RTW still alternating rounds, right?
Yes. So 4 and 1s may cut. So it'll be 3. The Swiss will be 3 rounds with and two rounds against, and that's alternating. I don't know that we figured out the order of rounds for cut yet, but alternating.
Yeah, and he also adds 3 with yours, 2 without for pre-cut. And
Yes.
That's basically what you said. Okay. And then Tommy Adams, so if you could just repeat this really quickly. Tommy Adams says, I missed a Sunday's event. So if you just say that really quickly, and then we'll move on to pods.
World Championship draft pods. Every round you're playing with every round you make it to, you play with a completely different draft pool. Well, a couple figures might overlap, but very different draft pools.
There you go.
So.
Yep. All right. So let's move on to what you want to talk about next with this.
Ken, you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll start. I think drafting's always been like a staple of Heroscape, and when we've tried to implement it in the past, I feel like it's a lot of I'm going to bring X number of packs or X number of waves or whatever, and a lot of times that ends up being like, well, I'm just going to bring a Knight army with Gilbert, and then Mike's like, well, I'm going to bring a Heavies army with Nirak and Grimnak, and we just draft back and forth, so maybe I can steal his Heavies, he can steal my Knights, but like we still have these two armies that we kind of already brought. And what we're doing, or what we're trying to attempt to do, and I feel like it's going really well. Two of them are complete, one of them's almost done, the other one's about 75% done. It's just a lot of built-in synergies and cross synergies, a little bit of a cat and mouse game, like, oh, well, if you take this unit, he might take this unit, so maybe I just go ahead and take this unit first to see what he picks first, so then I can counter what he picks. It's been a lot of fun. Sometimes getting the first pick is not the best, and sometimes going first is absolutely the best. So I wouldn't say absolutely, because there's so much counterplay in here, but like a lot of times, oh, I got to go first, and then you find out like, oh, that actually wasn't that bad. So it's been a lot of fun, and I know Mike's been testing this with his dad, and then Gucci and Earl's been testing it, and I've been testing a little bit with Garanex. So we've been having a lot of fun with it. We've done a lot of mock drafts too, Mike and I have over the internet. So we didn't get a chance to play those games out, but just kind of like, okay, well, if you pick this, I'm going to do this, and it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, the pre-built armies with built-in synergy and counters to each other have been so much fun to be like, okay, what's he going to do next, and what should I do in order to counter what he did?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way draft people have been doing it recently has been either like I bring half. Well, recently, I mean, before the last 2 years, because Ken really kind of started this back up, I would say 2 years ago at KenCon, but pre-KenCon, the way it was happening was one of two ways. Either both of you bring a pool of, let's say, 700 or 800 points, and then you sit down with your opponent, you combine your two pools, and then you draft from that. But whenever you as the player have agency in that way, you can figure out ways to, I don't want to say break it, but abuse it, right? Depending, you can just build it differently, and you can build it in very specific ways. And the other way is like pods or clusters, right? Like, I'm not saying we won't run, let's say, a pod draft or something at ScapeCon as well as like, at a side event time, but like pods or clusters, like, okay, I bring like 3 or 4, pods that are all, X number of points, or sometimes it's been 2, you bring 2 pods or something, and if I bring, let's say, 4, maybe we each end up drafting 2 or 3 or whatever, so I bring 4 pods, each of 180 points maybe, so then we roll, and then I pick 1 pod, and then you pick 2, and then I pick 1 or whatever, and you build your armies like that, and again, just weird stuff with, and I know some people really like it, but it's just not drafting in the way that really Heroscape was meant to be, which is you've got a limited pool of figures and you're going to draft from that. Like Rise of the Valkyrie, right, is just such a great example of that. Of like, you've got this pool of 15 or so different army cards, and I draft 1 and you draft 1, and we go back and forth. The way we're doing drafts here is I draft 1, then you draft 2 cards, I draft 2 cards, etc., back and forth like that. So it's 1 and then just 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, etc. You stop once you hit the point total. You can drop figures if you go above the figure count. I think that's pretty much it for the mechanics of the draft, and so it's just been really, really interesting, as Ken said, trying to build interesting and unique pods. And I've put a pretty big emphasis on what's our concept on the pod, and let's make these concepts different, right? So not only is this a different event from everything else you're doing over the weekend, but your experience in top 16 should be a bit different than your experience in top 8, just because the pods, the pools are just built in a different manner, right? Like, so we have, and there's so many different ways you could approach building these pods. You could build them pretty synergy-less, but for this year, we've been pretty heavy on the synergy and making it so, we've had core concepts of like, this is the synergy we want to explore, and how are we going to do that? So I'll spoil, like, one of the pods is Jandar focused. This one was the first one we did, and it was, first shout out to Dysel for giving a proof of concept back like 5 months ago or something, which my dad and I tried it. It was like, this works. We're building the pods a little bit differently, but that her concept was very helpful. So then, let's back up 1 second. Ken again deserves the credit for revitalizing and really starting this, because he ran something very similar at KenCon 3, I believe, where I believe everybody got one half of a pod, and so it was a similar thing to like the I bring one pool, you bring one pool, but it was still pre-built and not like, and you built that more with like synergies rather than like counters, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. So like, for instance, and they can go back and look at this, but like, I think I gave Lone Wolf Jeter Trons and Repulsors. So like in his build, so is he going to go after the Trons, or he's going to leave some of the Repulsors that counter the Trons? So those are the kind of things that we did at KenCon. Yeah.
And so then Isaac just ran an event in Peoria, I think this month, doing exactly this with pre-built armies. He went not armies, pools. Very much a good number of them are built based on Ken's pods from KenCon. There are some new ones and some differences, some changes he made, but it was just proof that the concept worked. And I will stress this: if you do not make the championship or whatever, like, these pods are first of all, these pods are all going to be posted publicly. Hopefully on the 27th. I think the last one will be done by then. I have to believe it will. But like, if you're not going to ScapeCon, like, I would just recommend trying them. They're just fun, right? It's just this has easily been the most fun I've had in Heroscape outside Reversal Whip. Like, it's just, the gameplay is super interesting. The drafting is interesting. Just from top to bottom, that whole experience for that hour or whatever it's just top tier Heroscape. This is Heroscape as Craig designed it. That drafting is just so fun, and the games become so interesting. So I highly recommend. And there's a learning curve to drafting, because I realized pretty quick. It took me probably 6 or 7 drafts before I figured out what the heck I was doing, and now I'm a lot better at drafting. But like, at first, like, my armies were just awful, right? And part of it has been the pools have gotten better and more refined, and it's harder to make really bad choices now. But at the start, when the pools, especially because the way we do it is we kind of throw everything we think we might want in there, and inevitably that doesn't work. So what we do is we do a mock draft first. Ken and I will, on the phone, we'll just go back and forth and do 2 or 3 drafts, and not play the game, right? This is just to see, like, are we seeing the same figure first picked each time? If so, that's a problem, probably, right? Are we seeing, is this just not even a consideration, this unit? Or is this unit just too good? Do you have to go this? So, like, with the Jandar pool, it was pretty clear early that Gilbert couldn't be in the pool. Gilbert was just too strong for that pool, right? So he went out, and so figure out, even, like, we start out just, like, the point and the figure element is just arbitrary, right? We just say, like, well, this might work, and we've adjusted, I think, most of them at this point, the points figure, sometimes drastically.
Yeah, and to reinforce what Mike's saying about draft, I would really encourage you guys to at least give it a whirl once or twice before you go to ScapeCon, because it is a little bit different than you think it's going to be, I think. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed.
Oh, okay. I don't want there to be silence. Oh, there he goes.
Oh, you cut out, Ken.
Yeah, you cut out for a second, Ken.
Man, I am so tired of this internet crap today. Anyway, I have bounced out like 15 times. Anyway, I don't even know what I was saying. But
it's all good. The drafting thing, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast, basically. Yes.
So.
Endorsed. All right.
And
Yeah, you're
again,
good,
shout
Ken.
out to Ben. Yeah, shout out to Ben and Ari for testing all this stuff. Testing maps for me as well for ScapeCon maps, and then shout out Ken and then Paul Garanex, who's been playing with Ken. So we've had 3 different sets of eyes as well, right? 3 different pairs of sets of eyes.
Right.
Which is also helpful because how one area might draft might be a little different than another, and that's part of the beauty of the pods is that even just game to game with that same pod is going to be different because how you draft, it depends so much on how your opponent drafts. And like if I first pick this unit one game and then somebody else first picks this other unit this other game, those are going to be 2 different games because it's a snowball effect of where do you go from there, right? So yeah, it's just I can't wait to drop the pods and allow people to start testing this out and playing it because it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
And Mike, you might have said this, but just to make it clear, because my internet goes out every 7 minutes. Just to be clear, all of round 1 will be the same pod. All of round 2 will be a different pod, but it's going to be all the same for every match. Round 3 the same, and round 4 the finals will obviously be just the one pod. But so the first game, all 8 matches will all play from the same pod. So it's not like, oh, this guy's going to get a chain fighter only pod, and this guy's going to get a Dumatef guard only. Not that we're doing that, but so everybody's going to get this. Everybody's going to get the same pod for round 1. Round 2, it'll be a different pod from round 1, but everybody's going to get that pod. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay. And here, let me. There's a few more question statements here or comments on the chat that I'm gonna catch up on here. So Christopher Perkins says, "Will the draft pools be public before ScapeCon 3 or published round by round?"
They will be public partly. I'm definitely not trying to give the people that are testing an unfair advantage. And to be clear, it's not like we're playing a million games with the current iteration. Like we've played so many games or drafted so many times with the old defunct versions as well, which are not great. So that's the thing, right? It's been taking a lot of refinement to get these good. It's not as simple as just throwing together figures. It takes a lot of work to really get them to be really good, so it's been a ton of fun. But yeah, they'll be posted again. Ideally, the 27th, all 4 should be posted. I'll at least get the ones that are up and done. 2 are done. I would say 99% sure. There's one tiny maybe change, but otherwise they're 99% there. The other 2, one is very, very close, and the last one is close. It's a lot closer than it was. Made really good ground on it recently, but it's been very much let's not start working all 4 at the same time, right? We got the first one set, and that was really the proof of concept. That first one was making sure even with Dicel's proof of concept, getting that first one nailed down was yeah, this works and it's worth investing more time into building 3 more of these things. So
okay. And let's see here. Marion says hola, and I know she's from Honduras, so hello Marion from Honduras. Buenas noches. ¿Cómo estás? Hope you're doing well. And Chad Parrish says, draft event sounds really exciting. Lots of work has been put in. I'm sure it'll be a great event. Seems much more like how Heroscape was meant to be played, like you guys were just saying. And Tommy Adams is also saying, looking forward to the Marvel map. Is there going to be Marvel maps? Is there going to be Marvel type?
Yes, there will be one. There will be one map that is built out of Marvel terrain.
Okay.
Which shout out to Tommy. Shout out to him for donating 8 Marvel sets to ScapeCon to the terrain pool, because that's why we never had Marvel maps at ScapeCon or Gen Con, was because we didn't have any, right? So Tommy was first of all, I'm not sure why he loves the terrain. It's literally just it's pretty ugly, and it's not that it doesn't do anything. There's no functional value to any of it, and but he loves it, and he was like, Mike, if I donate 8 sets, will you include a Marvel map? And I was like, I mean, sure, there's not that many good ones right now. He was like, okay, I'll run a Marvel map contest and force people to build maps with Marvel set. And I was like, there you go, great, let's do it, So, yeah, very generous of him, of course, for doing that.
Of course. Yeah, thank you, Tommy. Also, I think Tommy organized Hexacon as well, which is almost like a like it's almost like a offshoot from ScapeCon, really, for those that couldn't make it to ScapeCon, able to Hexacon, or even both, so it's just everything's expanding, which is it's a wonderful thing. Let's see here. Christopher Perkins says, looking forward to all of it. Thanks for all your hard work, Mike, and everyone else putting in the work. Yes, really. And it makes you wonder, like this time next year for ScapeCon 4, if you'll be putting in as much work into that as you are for 3 now. We'll see.
Answer is yes, based on the fact that I figured it'd get easier, and somehow each year it gets harder.
that would be my guess too. Let's see here. What's it? Okay, Tom. Tommy Adams says, "What Marvel maps look great?" And I was thinking the same thing. Aesthetics, because I've used like Marvel terrains for like my animations sometimes, and yeah, they kind of look good.
It's just the contrast. It depends how you use them. Because the contrast between and this is the same with like the dungeon versus like the Rise of the Valkyrie, where it's like versus the Swarm, right? Like the Rise of the Valkyrie tiles are all brown but with a different color, and then you've got the Swarm and the Marvel sets, which are just monocolor completely, and then you've got the dungeon, which is like 2 different colors but neither is brown. It's just that's the Heroscape world aesthetically of like that's what I mean by the Marvel trades. Like it meshes really well with like dungeon, and it looks good with like road and stuff. But then if you put it with like Rise of the Valkyrie, it looks not so good,
out of place.
So that's exactly. So it has its place, but it's harder to make it look good. Water treatment facility is still, I think, the best looking Marvel map I've ever seen by Game Bear. It's beautiful. So that's with Marvel. So
let's see here. Tommy Adams says, I won. I don't know if he means it in Hexacon. Probably so. I won by getting Marvel maps in ScapeCon. I mean, okay. Yeah, absolutely. No, and thank you, Tommy, for volunteering that. I look forward to seeing that when we're there come August. So now moving on, and how about we start, because it's almost been an hour. I think it's practically been an hour discussing this. Is there anything else important you would like to say before we wrap up? And any questions that the rest of my panel might have for this as well?
The one thing I would say is when we're building this draft pool, so like for the first round on Sunday morning, it'll be 8 different pools. I'm not sure, like Mike and I can build 8 pools with our collection, so we'll probably need the Heroscapers' help for doing that. Just putting that out there.
Okay.
I mean, I only have 20 chain fighters, so I can't make 8 pools of 40 chain fighters.
It sounds intense. It really does. That's wild.
Yeah. So exactly what Ken said. And I'm gonna try to, ideally it's gonna be if you supply a pool, you supply that whole pool, just because I'd prefer not to deal with the I brought like 3/4 of this pool, and like Joe brought almost all the other quarter, except Jeremy also threw in this other figure, right? So like we're gonna try to avoid that to the best we can. Right. So ideally it'll be, I think I can supply like 1 copy of each pool, but I can't supply a second copy. I don't think of any of the pools, because like uniques, I don't have 2 of each unique. I don't have anywhere close to that. Right. Just because like you don't need them, right? So it's like, I will be asking for a lot of help obviously on this front, and I know that'll make things maybe difficult for like, I've committed these figures to this event, so like what am I going to run on the side events? And we'll make it work. We'll even, maybe we'll be more flexible with proxies. And again, people are so gracious about lending figures, but I'm just thinking for like that first round where we need 8 copies of the pool, those side events, we're just going to have to say to people, hey, you've got to, proxies are totally cool, maybe on those Sunday side events specifically. So we'll work it out. We'll make it work. This isn't, you're not going to be punished for helping us, have all the pools put together for that Sunday. So.
And it looks like Chris Perkins is already saying, I'm bringing most of my collection and I'm happy to contribute draft pools as needed. So you already got a volunteer right there. So, and okay, and anything else? Guys, do you have any questions for these gentlemen before we wrap this segment?
No, I'm so excited for all of you.
We are not going to sleep.
I'm excited to try out. I'm curious to see what the pods are going to be. That is something that because even with pre-made armies, like that's something that we started with in our group. Before we understood what good army compositions were. Like Glenn and I would talk to each other about making pre-made armies, and so when we had our girlfriends come over or friends come over, we're like, hey, let's roll a dice. You pick an army, you get an army, I get an army, and then we just fight. And so instead of wasting all of, let's say, an hour or two either drafting or pulling out the binder and making armies right there and then, and then that's when Glenn started to make a spreadsheet for Deathwalkers, and then that goes on forever. Just keeps scrolling. But yeah, I mean so trying out that format and maybe giving that a try of making the team army right on the spot. You go, I go, you back and forth. Counteract each other. I'm curious. To try that again. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys all put that together. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and they're not that collection intensive. A pool isn't going to have 6 squads of Knights of Weston. Yeah. So if you're it's also not gonna have 20 chain fires despite Ken trying to sneak that into one of them probably. So that's the thing, is that if you're one of the people when I started and when most people got into the game back in the day, they bought just one of stuff, and so if you're one of those people, yes, you're gonna need a little more than one of stuff for these pools, but not that much more. So maybe that's a slight spoiler, but I don't think for this set, as of right now, at least, we're using more than 3 copies of anything. So it's so you don't, and it's primarily 2 copies of stuff. It's not very many things that are 3 copies. So this is really easy for and if you only need to. Trexie's prices are really reasonable too. If you just need one extra squad of something, for probably $6 or $8, right? I need one more squad of this whatever to make this pool, and just proxy. That's the other thing at home. So I'm hoping that these end up just being a great experience for everybody. But and obviously it was built for this. But yeah, I mean, it's been worth it. So
for sure.
Awesome.
For sure. All right, and anything else we want to say before we wrap this segment? No? Okay. I think in closing, I look forward to this event. I look forward to anybody who's listening, who's planning to go, or even if you're just finding out about this, there are still spots open. And Mike, what's the price to attend, and what do you actually have to do to attend, since there are spots still open?
To attend, the best way is to PM me at this point. The price, it's not cheap. The price is all inclusive except for your hotel room. You will need the hotel room. I believe they're $134 a night this year. If they were $129 last year. I think they went up $5 if I remember correctly. I think
they're $134 bad. It's not bad.
Yeah. And you can split the rooms, right?
Right.
I know some people put 4 in a room or whatever, and if so, you each pay one night. That's $134 each, plus tax, of course. But the badge gets you everything else. There are 4 different options. 4, I think. There's the 2 main ones, which are the weekend badge and the weekend no breakfast. It's exactly what it says. Weekend is the weekend, and by the way, when I say weekend, it's Wednesday through Sunday. So it's a lot of days, but the weekend gets you the full time, and the weekend no breakfast gets you the full time as well, but without breakfast. So that's $400 for the weekend, $350 for the no breakfast. The other option is the 1 day, and there are 2 different options, if I remember correctly. Because you shouldn't pay as much for Wednesday or Sunday, where there's only one event on that day, as you pay for, Thursday through Saturday. So, what did we do? We did Wednesday or Sunday is $55. Thursday, Friday, or Saturday is $125. But if you want no breakfast, it's $110 on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. So you can build your badge how you want. If you can only come for 2 days or 3 days or whatever. So yeah, I mean that's it. And again, it gets you everything, t-shirt, meals, prizes, events, everything. So all inclusive except for the bar. So
Right.
drinking at the bar. Yeah.
And I know, and especially in my case, I know I can't be there for the full time. So I mean, I messaged Mike and we worked something out. So I mean, by all means, message them. Again, links are in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube for the events. And even Mike's Heroscapers.com page where you can message him and notify him if you want to get involved. It is definitely worth it, no matter what time or money you can put into it. I promise you all that out there. So hopefully we'll see all of you come August who are watching. And if you can't make it this year, plan for ScapeCon 4. Why not? Let's bust out the place again.
Sure, Ryan. I'll plan for ScapeCon 4. I'll do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hope you can make it, Joe. Yeah.
Joe, Joe, I'm only going to criticize you, Joe. Why didn't you come in this year? Anyway.
No, I mean, so there will always fighting. Be, there, and I understand with, the price isn't the cheapest thing in the world, and also people have conflicts and stuff. And I know people, especially like Paul, just had a baby, so there's real life stuff, and of course people have other obligations, and just if you can come, I think it's worth it. It's a really good experience.
It is totally worth it.
Yes,
please go. If you're thinking about, I mean, if anyone's watching this, they are going. I don't know why, but if by chance that you're like, oh, let me see what this ScapeCon's all about, click, go to ScapeCon 3, please. Go meet these people. They are incredible.
Right.
I speak from experience. Wonderful people, good games, good times, good food. Go to ScapeCon 3.
Yep. And that is ScapeCon 3. Hope to see all of you there. All right, so that is the end of that ScapeCon segment, and since that segment did pull it did go for a little over an hour, so I'm going to do a little bit of an audible here, as sometimes I do on the ToV podcast.
20-minute segment, 1 hour. Not like I'm.
No, you're good.
It's not. Yeah. Anyway. I don't know where I was going with that. Justin says, I'm very interested in ScapeCon 4. I'll go winless, but have a lot of fun. And also, Justin, it is certainly a learning experience, and you might surprise yourself with wins that you never expected to have. Hey, Mike? Anyway.
I lost to two on this screen, and I lost to Joe recently at a monthly, so yeah, you never know. Hey, I've beaten Ken, so I was like 14. Like,
oh my goodness!
He makes his stuff up. I swear. Remember that one game we had?
I know. Even though I'm going to just be there for a couple of days, I know if it's not going to be on a tournament or something, or even if it's like after hours, I gotta sit down with you, Ken, and just like go on at least one round with you, with something, just because learning that aspect from you guys would be a ton of fun.
A coaching event or something like that.
Maybe like that. I'm very new to that. Yeah, no.
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, Justin. I mean, can't make it this year. Yeah. Plan for next year. Plan for next year for sure. But anyway,
I guess one more spoiler.
Yeah,
we are doing a coaching event. That's a real thing. We're doing.
Okay.
I don't know if
great.
we're doing it for only one night or multiple nights, but essentially there will be players that both like know the game and are good at explaining and helping people. And it'll be if you are very new to the game and you need to learn basics, we'll work on you with basics. And if you are experienced but want to, let's say, learn like how to play a very specific army, or with maybe you just aren't good with like reverse whip style splash armies, it's literally whatever, if you come in with something that you want to specifically work on, or like, how do I approach this matchup better, how do I do X, Y, or Z better, we can talk about that. Or if you are coming in and saying, hey, I'm new to Heroscape or newer, right, and I just I just don't even really know where to start, with like, I'm losing all my games right now. What am I doing wrong? And it's like, well, you're splitting order markers, or well, your army compositions aren't good, or whatever. And we'll talk, and we'll get you with a good army, and then we'll start working on gameplay decisions, like how do you develop and how do you do this stuff. Because I talk about it, Ken and I talk about it a lot on casters, but it's different in person. That's the struggle of running a podcast is so much of the game is visual, and I can't show you. Ken and I can't show you what we mean by developing and slow rolling melee, and how do you do that effectively, and how do you pinpoint the areas of the map that matter, and what are you going to do accordingly, and all this stuff that goes into decision making. I'm hoping the commentating is going to be really helpful this year for people that then watch the stream, and it'll go up on YouTube later. They'll be able to watch and see the decision points and hear people talk about the decision points. So I am going to be a little picky with making sure that there's at least one person that I've chosen for commentating at each time slot. Maybe like it could even end up being like, color commentary plus like analyst type deal, which is like how sports, I think, do it a lot of times, right? But just making sure there's like a good analyst every right. single time slot. That way it should hopefully be a very good experience for people then to watch later. But yeah, coaching will definitely be there for at least one night, maybe multiple. Might be one-on-one with your coach, or it might be two people are there. We'll match people up, and then one coach. It'll just depend on the demand. First year we're doing this, I have no idea what the demand is going to be like, how many people will sign up for that and are interested in doing that. So, but yeah, that'll be an actual option.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, I think Adam wants to sign up for me to coach him. So Doc does. So just you might want to make sure you work that in there, Mike.
Sure, I'll make sure.
All right,
that's an awesome event.
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'll have to tack that on to the segment as well. So anyway, when I mean audible for this podcast, I'm going to eliminate one segment already, and that's the Thormun's Journal lore reading. We can shelve that for next time. What I'm going to do is, if you guys want to stick around for a few minutes, we talk about like just a squad right now, which we have on the lineup, because what we're doing is we're going through each individual squad first through classic Scape, in alphabetical order on the books of Heroscape on Heroscaper's website, just one by one. And so that way, eventually there'll be a playlist for people to go through. And if they're interested in a squad or army, you have people like given information about the stats, a little bit about the lore, and how to use that squad. If it's usable or not, how valuable it is. So that's what we're going to do with one of the squads right now, which will be. Let me pop this up here. So will you guys be able to stick around? Is that good? Sound good?
I'll have to bounce in a few. I can stick around for a few more minutes. So.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And Ken's giving a thumbs up. So
I have a final on Thursday. I haven't looked at anything for it yet. And I have a paper due the next Thursday. Haven't looked at anything.
Sounds like a slacker to me.
Yep. We're right in the middle of things. I've already had one paper and a final trial. So half of the stuff and the harder stuff is done. So I'm, okay. But bankruptcy, there's a lot to it. Turns out there are a lot of rules. Yeah.
You don't say.
All right. Well, how about we hop into this then? All right. So for tonight, it is the book of Anubian Wolves. And let me just go through the stat card real quick, and then we'll talk about it. So Anubian Wolves under Utgar. They're wolves, common squad, devourers, relentless, medium 5, 1 life, and it's a squad of 3. Move 6 spaces, range 1 space, attack 1 dice, and defense 4 dice at 75 points. And they have a special ability, Unleashed Fury. Before moving, roll the 20-sided die. If you roll a 1, choose an Anubian wolf you control and destroy it. If you roll a 2 and 6, add just 1 to the attack value of this card. If you roll a 7, 11, add 2 to the attack value of this card. And if you roll a 12, 15, add 3 to the attack value. If you roll a 16, 19, add 4 to the attack value of this card. And if you roll that 20, you add 8 to the attack value of this card. Thoughts?
Honestly, that power is just like the literal like D&D experience of rolling a 1. Like that is like there's no. We always joke about it. Anytime a roll is 1, it's like, oh, I guess I'll die. This is literally the card that does that. Like that's crazy.
Right.
I guess I'll die.
Well, and I think because if you draft Anubian Wolves with Kosumet, it completely eliminates the role of the 1.
Right, because it adds
a
1 to the
roll
die. Yeah.
Right.
So, like strategic wise, you're probably going to want to try to draft Kosumet with the Wolves just to keep them alive and not have that potential. Because I mean, who wants to mess with the dice, right? Because that's what happens when you doubt the dice, when you think you're stronger than the dice proves it's better, and then all of a sudden everything is dying because you're rolling 1s multiple times. You're like, wait a second, why? Don't test the dice. It will show you that it's the leader.
So how many 1s do you think you need to roll before, like if you do, you're only going to roll one per game? Would you still draft Kosumet?
See that? I don't know, because Kosumet's kind of.
You're going to roll 2 1s. Would you draft Kosumet? Like how many 1s before you say you want to draft Kosumet instead of another squad of wolves?
Right.
And the nice thing about the wolves, like, well, the better thing about the wolves is they destroy 1, but I think you still got to take a turn, right? With stingers, you destroy 1, you lose a turn.
Yeah.
So like the wolves, you got to take the turn.
You can still take the turn.
And I almost feel like the wolves, their better stats are their move and their defense. 4 defense is great. 6 move is great. It's nice when you get the 9 attack, and then like the only thing you can attack is like, Onanashi, like that's it. Because you don't get a pick when you roll that 9 or 9 attack. I'm sorry, not when you roll the 9. It is one of the few glyphs, or it is one of the few armies that, like, I think Loden's actually, a lot of people are saying Loden's not very good. But I feel like this is one of the few times, like drones, wolves, hounds, where there's increments of what you want to roll. Loden's better than it is, let's say, with just Marrow Dividers, when it's just giving you a +1. This is giving you a +1 like 3 different times. So, so wolves aren't super competitive. They never really have been. Part of it is like, you're paying 75 points for 3 wolves when you get a squad of knights for 70, squad of orcs for 70, squad of heavies. I mean, so dwarves. So like, 4th mass, just things like that. But I mean, they're fun. Raider 30, one of the guys that I have played with for years, he loves the wolves. It's one of his favorite units. But as a general rule, I think the question is, like, when is Kosumet worth it, right? Because because 75 points for him is the same as a squad of wolves. So you're like, okay, well, if I know I'm going to roll 4 1s, maybe but obviously you don't know that. But it's just interesting to kind of thought process that out and be like, at what point would I want to draft him? Because he doesn't bond with them like he does with the Wolves of Bedrew. Even though he does give them the attack bonus, but trying to move him up and set up that attack bonus is kind of, far-fetched, not realistic typically.
It can go wrong really quickly.
Right.
And Kosumet's kind of squishy too, because like he's a 3-life hero, so it's
someone go after him really quickly.
You set him up in the wrong way, and all of a sudden he's dead in a turn, and you're like, well.
So
he's actually a little. He's actually, and I don't want to turn this into like a Kosumet discussion, but he's actually a little bit better in my opinion with the Death Knights, because the Death Knights also bond with the Dumatef. And they bond with the Dumatef, and he actually boosts the Dumatef. And that's actually something you can actually possibly set up, as opposed to
possibly
Kosumet. I've done it once. And it was and the Dumatef was on a road space, and it was against Boromir at Veggie's house. I still lost the game, but my whole goal was to get Kosumet adjacent to a Dumatef, and the Dumatef on the road and get
that set up though.
Correct. It felt good. I still lost the game, but it felt great.
You want that perfect moment in time. It doesn't matter win or lose. You're gonna have that moment.
Right.
Can someone explain to me why the champion version of the Anubian with a shield has less defense than the normal Anubian?
What's that?
He has
He's
Kosuba
older.
has
He's
3
old.
defense.
He's like
Okay.
95. He's
He's-
95
Yeah,
years
let me
old.
just
That's
bring him
what
up a
it is.
second. Yeah,
Kosuba's
exactly.
been around for a while.
Well, yeah, what's that? What's up with that? I don't know.
I mean, the shield is pretty like tiny. To be fair, like that's like a pretty worthless
Maybe
shield.
it's because he's holding it above his head and it's not really defending it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's just a menacing thing. You like
Maybe
wave it
it's
in the
not
air,
actually a
scare people.
shield. Maybe it's a talisman that gives him the enhancement for Unleashed Fury.
Maybe, yeah.
Alright, fine, no one gets on that. Okay, cool.
Anyone got a quick
Trying to
link
give some
Craig,
lore here, like-
go message Craig and be like, hey, so about that shield. Like,
Come on, man. You know, it's like
I know we're asking this question several years later, but we're just really, really curious now.
Never a wrong time to ask that question.
That is true.
it's like this Kusanite guy.
He's
you know?
physically smaller, isn't he? Like,
Yeah,
he's not as muscular as the basic wolves. So I mean, in
Yeah.
theory, maybe the 4
Yeah,
defense is more of a
he's
natural
definitely-
resistance to damage from the skin or the
He's a
muscle
little-
of the
he's a little
wolves.
Skin tight there.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
Gosh, Cameron.
fair.
yeah.
But if yeah,
We'll talk about him I'm sure in a future time. But what's up with that sickle?
Right.
I never understood that. You know, just I don't know.
Oh, it's technically called a Kopesh.
No, I don't.
Interesting.
Anyway, these wolves, they look great though.
Cool.
You know, I have to say one thing. They look very fierce, and I think I know. Last year, ScapeCon, Reverse the Whip Championship. I got someone's army. It wasn't my army, but Reverse the Whip. It became my army. A bunch of wolves, and I lost. But it was a ton of fun because you never knew what these wolves were going, because they didn't have Kosumet with them. And you never knew what they were going to do. So it's like, okay, this could go well for me or it could not, and it turned out being more not than so. So yeah, you learn pretty quickly with those that it's.
I do think yeah,
Go ahead.
I do think that the gameplay with wolves are more interesting than the gameplay with most of the other variance-based figures, right? Like Airborne, I hate playing against because it's literally, do they hit the drop? And if they hit the drop and I'm playing melee, I lose. Not it's not quite that, but it's just kind of a miserable experience where they hit the drop and there's no thinking to be done on the opponent's part. They drop them like 12 spaces away, then they shoot from 8 spaces away with 4 dice from height until I can reach them, and it's a pain in the butt. If there's no road, if there's no jungle, it's just a pain to try to get to them alive. Whereas in Nubians, like, there's always this interesting like decision point of like, I mean, it's very similar to the Nagaxta thing where it's like your big hero, like, and your more valuable pieces, you kind of don't, even though it's a low chance that they hit that 20 and get the +8 on that attack. If they do, like I remember winning a reverse to whip game, I brought Blade Gruts and I had Anubians, and eventually, eventually I hit the 20 and rolled 9 dice twice onto Grimnack and killed him. But it's like, well,
Wow.
obviously,
Wow.
but I gave him like 16 Blade Gruts. I really shouldn't have been able to get at Grimnack. So there's, you can really play this matchup differently, from their end and tie up and make me at least take leaving engagement attacks. And then it's on me. Like I rolled that 20, I can smack Blade Gruts, but I could also take a leaving engagement and you roll a die, 50-50, I die. But then I get to smack Grimnack, and is that worth it? And maybe it depends on game state, because it probably will be worth it. But I lose that first one to the engagement strike. Do I move the second one and go for the maybe the double leaving engagement to try to get at Grimnack? So it's just like I think there's a lot of counterplay built into it with like because there's always that threat of the D20 roll that like keeps both players honest. I just like that design a lot more than like is Airborne are Airborne, or like if it's a short map, are they going to win initiative with Zelrig and just murder me, right? Or like like a Runa who just gets within 2, rolls the die. Or Atlaga is my least favorite. He gets one shot. Atlaga gets one shot, and if he hits that shot on your hero, you're toast. And
Right.
it's just that is just the biggest feels bad in the game, where it's like you've got one shot to hit a 25% chance. If you hit that 25% chance, there goes my Nilfheim. And and Atlaga's got like 5 move flying with like 5 range in the bolt or something, so it's like a 10 threat range that you can't counterplay at all, because he's got 4 life. So even if you time up with one guy, like good luck, So it's just that is the epitome to me of like bad variants, and I think the Nubians are just it's Heroscape. Because Heroscape is variance. It has the variance in the D20 ability. So many units have those. Like even Grimnack's Chomp on the Heroes has that. But again, I think Anubians is really the right kind of variance. So
it gives it a level of fun that it's like you're taking a chance, and that's the fun of it.
It's the fear factor, because I've noticed this because one of my buddies loves Deathwalker 7000 for just going in and exploding, and it's like it's the fear factor. Like you could send him in and it does nothing, but at that one point, if you get that right roll and it does all the damage,
the chomping,
like Negaxa's. I mean, I lost team tournament with my dad one year at Gen Con. We had 4 Morrow Warriors left. One was on unique attack life versus 1 life Negaxa, who on his first try hits the 20. Now the real answer is Negaxa never should have been able to get next to any of the Morrows because they have 6 range and he's 5 move walking. So that was the real lesson that I didn't learn that day, but I learned in the future when I looked back and I was like, especially on Quest Edge Playground, which is bumpy as crap and as water. Should he have been able to get next to my Morrow Warrior? Probably not. But he did, and he hit the 20 and we lost that game. So it's like but that's the thing about Negaxa is you got to be careful, and Anubians ramp that up because they might have like 12 or 15 of them. I used to play some B- and under games, like a decent amount, and they were scary in B- and under. They were one of the best things with the 4 defense. They were just such a pain to kill, and if you brought a hero, because the squads weren't particularly good in B- and under, you got to be careful because they're going to hit that. Even the +4, 5 attack. If they were 15 dice in a turn is a lot. That's it's not maybe as much as like bonding melee, but 4th mass often aren't rolling 15 because they get 4 shots of 3 often with Weight and Fire. They might not have height. That's only 12 dice. So that's the thing about Nubians too, is it's not all in on that. Really just need as long as you're like rolling 3, hopefully 4, but they might get height with 6 move. I don't know. They're a cool unit. They're good. I hate, I would never bring them to reverse the whip because there's just if they consistently are at 4 or 5 attack or better,
it's a risk.
Then you're in trouble, So as much as there is that counterplay, it's just a little too scary for me. But I also won't bring Negaxa, so that's just me personally. Different people have different philosophies, but.
And let's just talk real quick about some of the lore a little bit on these guys, because we like to mix a little bit of lore here. The character bio says the sheer fury of these wild warriors can make even the most fearless foes' blood run cold. Attacking in numbers, often beside an empowering comrade, Anubian wolves fight with frenzied rage. While the attack is always quick, the demise of the defeated can be dreadfully, painfully slow. These wolves are devourers, so the sweet taste of victory has a very special meaning for them. And real quick, just referring to our lore master here, where do these Anubian wolves reside? What planet do they reside in?
So they're from Phelan.
Okay.
Primarily, so just because you're gonna see this name come up a lot, the Anubian wolves are referenced probably, I would say, almost not as frequently as the Morrow, but like secondary elements too, because it's always Morrow, and then, but the Anubian wolves do come up a lot in the fictions, and so these are the primary antagonists to a lot of the elves that we meet in the story as well. So, what they were fighting prior to being summoned.
Okay.
And a whole bunch of stories with them in it.
Yeah, and I know there's like with Kusamet, I think Moorsbane, Sudima, and those like that. There's a lot mixed up. But I know.
No, there's a whole side plot.
Yeah. And when we get to those other characters, I think we'll dive into that more. But just suffice to say that they play a role within the lore as part of those events.
We actually did mention them last podcast episode, because when we were reading the Thormun's journal, they were mentioned by name in the last entry. So yeah, they do come up pretty frequently in regards to the elves and anything Phelan related.
Right. Okay, and so let's see here. go to, okay, so synergy benefits. Of course, we mentioned Kusamet, also Dumatef Guard, and then when it comes to C3V, you only have like Knights of Blackguard with Relentless Army attack bonus. So, I mean, there is some ways. Again, I think like what you guys are saying, they tend to be a little bit more of a risky army, especially when it comes to tournaments. Although still fun. You never know what you would get with them, and obviously, I mean, if you synergize them with other miniatures, then that helps your chances. But it still requires a little bit of tactical skill when it comes to trying to make sure those enhancement synergies do not die early. So yeah, those are always things to consider with that. And I mean, there are comments about rating these as well, and just check out the books of Heroscape that's set up there on heroscapers.com to find out more about these guys. Anything in the comments before we finish this segment?
Can you imagine rolling a 20 on height and you're rolling 3 attacks to 10? Oh. Can you imagine? Like, that's nuts.
Someone want to share a story that they've actually done that? Feel free to leave it in the comments below. We'll read it next time.
Then the COV would say, "Why did you let 3 wolves get height on you?"
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
that's what the captain of Valhalla would say.
How could you allow?
Like, why would you let that happen? So,
yeah. Again, letting 18 attack dice on the Grimnack wasn't great either. So, I will say this: like, one of the things I appreciate about them and early Heroscape as a whole is the elegance of the designs. As much as I love like the D&D designs, like there is a marked difference between Weight and Fire on 4th Mass. That's it, and well, the Valiant bonus too, technically. But once you're in game, that goes away. Unleash Fury, just like so many elegant and simple designs. As much as I love like Horned Skull Brutes, which like, but they're just wordier. There's just more going on, and sure there were some, I guess, more complex and designs and stuff. But Anubians are just such a great example of that simple design philosophy of we're gonna have these wolves that are just just can be crazy strong or not, and we're just going to put it all in a single power, and we're going to make them feel tough just based on their defense. We don't need to give them some defensive special ability, we don't need to give them like a stealth armor type deal of a D20 roll, nothing like that. We're just going to, there's no like dependency, it's not like Quasatch, which have like 3 powers, and I think Granites have 3 powers as well, which are like more complex and terrain dependent, and a lot of the terrain figures have those, and just that 4 defense, just they feel tough just by that. The 6 move, they just feel fast, and you can just get so much out of just base stats, and I really like that from a design standpoint. So,
and I think I'll let that be the last word. So that's looking at the Anubian Wolves for your consideration out there for building squads and armies for your Heroscape collection. All right, now we get on to the final bits of this podcast. I'm just going to read a couple comments from the last podcast, which we were discussing C3V, and having a little bit of discussion on that. I don't know. Let's see. Tommy Adams real quick says in comments, Microcorp agents came out the same time as these guys, though, for complexity. Yeah, that's a squad for sure. But no, I just want to say, Ken, Mike, do you guys have to go? Do you have a few more minutes? I'm not sure. If you do, just want to check.
If you're talking about customs, I'm going to bounce. It's just not. I have nothing to add. I don't know anything about them, so I'm going to go. So,
okay.
But I really appreciate you letting us on, and I'm glad that we got an opportunity to talk about ScapeCon, and as you guys, appreciate you guys do this I think it's every week, right? You guys
every other week usually now. Yeah.
Oh, every other week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Still, at least you have a consistent schedule.
Yeah, we do.
Right?
We're pretty consistent now.
Consistent schedule. That's great. So.
Mike, no, I'm
what are you saying? We were consistent for like 4 episodes in a row.
I was not saying anything. I was just complimenting these guys. Like, why do you always got to take everything personally?
We're sensitive.
Ken, thank you so much for returning. Definitely need to have you on the future. Maybe possibly do like a classic like squad or hero look at, and where we just barrel through like 5 or 10 of them and have your expertise and experience talking about them sometime, probably in the future. Definitely want to try. Definitely want to try and do that with you sometime.
Oh yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate it.
Later, man.
Yeah,
And
good night.
pleasure as
Thank
always.
you, sir.
Have a good night.
All right, and for those of you, again, link in the description below. I do have Ken's Matthias Maccabeus. If you want to contact him via heroscapers.com, I do have that in the description below. And Mike, you got about 2, sir?
How much longer do you think you'll go?
It's a couple of messages, so probably it shouldn't be any longer than like 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, I'll say I can't. Yeah.
I mean that and final thoughts
Let's do it.
might be
Yeah.
15, but
Sure.
and I might be totally lying. So we'll see.
I can't do another. I really can't do another hour. But I.
No,
can,
it's not gonna be
I'm
an
sorry
hour.
I'm sorry for making ScapeCon, the
Oh.
20-minute segment go for like an
No.
hour.
That is, we
But-
kind of half expected it, so we're. Yeah,
I
it's all
felt
good.
okay after watching the last one with Cody where G Busy, where you guys did VC for 20 minutes, so I was like, okay,
20.
Yeah, that was an hour and 11 seconds. Those 11 seconds
Look,
important.
the schedule that I make with Ryan is a suggestion, okay? It isn't something.
It's more like
that
a
we stick to
guideline
ever.
than actual rules, So,
It's recommended.
Nice,
Is that a Pirates of the Caribbean reference?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. All right.
great trilogy.
Yeah, oh yeah. I eat up that first one. It just just real quick, just Johnny Depp, like that first scene where he's on that little tugboat that's sinking, and then it's like he's standing there, and then the music is swelling, and then he puts the hat to his heart for the dead people, and then it just like the boat sinks. It just that whole scene, it just sets everything up to where it's just like. That's what a pirate is, and it's just
Perfect.
like sold immediately. Yeah, Johnny Depp owned that part, especially for that first movie. Anyway, okay, that is film stuff, not Heroscape stuff. So I'm going to move on. All right, so let's get to these comments. All right, I'm going to first. Let's see here. Get to. Okay, I got 3 here. I'll go to this one first. Okay, I'm gonna bring this up. Okay, Kaitsuki says, I don't think C3V will use multiple wounds on squads, but NGC will. Because, yeah, we were talking about that a little bit. And that was kind of a cool thing that they did reveal when AOA was a thing. And that kind of blew our minds. But then when nothing happened, it's like, but yeah, NGC... again, we have not. We will eventually probably get the guys who are working on that on the podcast sometime to explain some things when it comes to that. But yeah, we'll see what they do with that. I know that was kind of like a newsmaker a few weeks ago. So and they're still at work.
It's ambitious. It's ambitious.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Kaitsuki, for the comment. Now, let's see here. Now, this is kind of a negative comment towards C3V, but it's fine, because, and let me just read it real quick, and then I'll have something to say about it. So Joshua Mason says, and thank you, Joshua, for the comment, C3V is poorly balanced fan fiction, and I don't understand why anyone would use it. Now, before anybody gets too critical, I pretty much had the same opinion a few years back before I actually, started diving into C3V a little bit. So I understand where he's coming from, but any responses to that comment?
What do you mean by poorly balanced? These things are like go through rigid like
Very
testing.
strong
That-
boards. Yeah.
That was my thought too, and so I mean I did respond and ask him, can you provide any examples of what you would mean by poorly balanced? Didn't respond to me. Maybe didn't have enough time or whatever, but I know, like, I can understand, and that was kind of my take on it before actually exploring it. So I don't know if Joshua has actually looked in depth to these and understand the process that's behind it. Maybe he has, and maybe he thinks it's just like, I just don't think they're good enough, and fair enough. Fair enough.
That's an opinion. That's an interesting take. But
right.
I mean, look, it's one of those things too that I think over time, I think more people will become accustomed to it. It's just still look, if you don't want to go on the website and read about it and do the research, sure, that's maybe how you might look into it. So over time, more people talk about it. It's come up in play. I mean, look, Delta. I'm sure first time people talked about Delta, they were like, oh, why would we do that? That seems silly, But then over time, slowly, we use it at ScapeCon, use it at events. People start to warm up to the idea, and we go, "Hey, this is fun. This is cool. This is great."
First time D&D came out, there was a lot of people that did not want to play it. So
and look at those characters; they're used all the time.
The change, the concept of change is a
thing that people don't like change. Yeah.
And the Marvel characters. Oh wait, we still don't use the Marvel characters.
That's another ball game.
No one wants to play degenerate Thanos regeneration strategies and Surfer Hospital, where you have rats shielding up a Surfer with Anna, who heals him every turn, and Raylan, who gives him +2 defense, and he runs out and runs back in every single turn in the same turn. Runs out, attack, run back in. Nobody wants to play those games, so it's
I can't even imagine what actual Marvel meta looks like. I can't even it's doing them on their own, singly, just they're already too powerful. But in the meta of things,
it just changes things. We've run them at the last 2 ScapeCons, and it's pretty interesting actually. It's like Jacob won both of them. The first one he ran Hounds with Iron Man, and Hounds are actually pretty good in the Marvel meta. And so, the meta is just a little different. Braxis gets better as opposed to Nilfheim, because you'd actually rather get those auto kill rolls on the heroes of 17 plus than the 4 dice ice shards, which is 4 dice against again Surfer backed by Anna and Raylan. Dealing wounds to him isn't an option really with Nilfheim, so you're better off with the Braxis roll, right? You can go kind of anti-meta routes with combining those Braxis plus Hounds, because Hounds match up really well into Black Wormling's Thanos, which is the most degenerate Thanos regeneration strategy, because every turn you roll twice, because it's 2 different Wormling turns, right? So you go with, and Black Wormlings match up better into the other heroes. So it's there is some layers to this, and it's kind of interesting, but it changes the meta. As VC, it's just like classic Heroscape. There's some absolute stinker units, and there's some units that are too good, and then there's a lot of stuff in the middle. Classic Heroscape also isn't that well balanced. Any game where you have Raylan 1 for 80 points and Hadamato Taro for 130, the balance, Marvel Warriors are 50 points. Marvel Warriors are just busted. You could pay 50 points for Marvel Warriors or 50 points for 3 Morrow Drudge. Which are you gonna buy? It's not that, so it's no worse balance than Classic for sure. If you don't want to play with it, that's fine. All these things are just, the way I view everything is just options, right? I've got Delta, that's an option. I've got ban lists, that's an option. I've got, different figure limits and different point values, and those are all options. Different formats, all options. VC or not VC. Every single lever you tweak is going to give you a different meta, and every single lever you tweak is going to give players a different experience, and that's what I value.
I mean, personally, I look forward to going to ScapeCon with a completely bug army, because C3V provides that, and I'm gonna be basing them, and bees and ants and
are you saying that you're a busy bee?
I'm a busy bee. Yep. Hopefully, I get them all done in time. I don't have much time because Tales of a Hell is just and other things just taken up, but. I should, and that'll be fun to learn how to, play those as well. Tommy Adams says Iron Man is awesome. Iron Man is awesome, whether on Heroscape
Flying double attack, Mo.
Yeah,
that's awesome, right there.
All right. Actually, it'd be kind of fun though with who is it? Pirate Bonnie, to make everybody into a pirate. To make Marvel characters, Tony Stark into pirates. That would be fun. That would be fun. That's just a thought. Okay.
Me hangries.
Now let's get into this next comment. And anyway, thank you, Joshua, for the comment. All opinions are welcome here. It brings on great discussion. All right, Demon Hunter Pillar 86. Hi, Paul. Says
Doesn't say the thing that he normally says.
He changed it up, yeah.
I don't
know who he is.
I don't know this guy.
There it is.
I don't know this guy.
There it is.
Anyway, okay. Great episode. I have a similar experience with VC to many expressed here. I didn't even consider customs, partially due to how many there were. Yes, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but the debacle that was AOA made me realize that VC and 3D printing is the way of the future. A few things that really convinced me of this is that many of the VC figures were made with tournaments in mind, exactly, and are likely more balanced other than some figures like Spearmen versus Classic Escape. I have to remind myself every now and again that the original units were not designed for pre-made double-blind tournament formats. The other thing is, why should we wait on a corporation which doesn't have the respect and experience for the IP that fans do? And here a second. To give us more official units. My favorite aspect of VC is when they were able to make classic lower tier units tournament viable, or if they fill in gaps in the original lore. That makes the Dreadghoul Raiders a really cool unit, with fulfilling both of those aspects. Regarding tournaments, I'd recommend the most recent Casters of Valhalla episode, and how convenient that we have the guy behind Casters of Valhalla here, where Ken and Mike discuss the steps to prepare for a tournament. It is a fantastic listen and a great one to take notes on. And again, it's like it's not there right now, but if you're watching this retroactively on YouTube, Casters of Valhalla link will be below, or just Google it, and you'll find them there. Lots of good information on there from those guys. So, any comments on that email? And thank you, Paul, for the comment.
Is that Gear Expo?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's well said. I think it's very well said. So again, thank you, Paul, for that. Now let's get into final thoughts and plugging whatever we want to plug, because we all have things we're going to do. And so, Jeremy, go ahead for tonight.
All right. Well, I'm excited for ScapeCon. I know last year was it was just a really interesting experience, because I didn't ever, how do I say this? I got busy with other things over time, and I just don't usually have a lot of people to play Heroscape with, right? It's at least in my area, it's a very obscure topic. And so it was a treasured memory of my past for a long, long time, and I talk about it all the time, but I never got to play it. And then going to ScapeCon, getting to play all those games, getting to meet, I think it was like getting to meet the people behind the names I've known so long. Because like I knew a lot of those names because I've been on the Heroscapers forum since 2009, right? So I finally get to see these people in person and meet some of the people I've had discussions with, long-term discussions with, especially during C3V's early days. Like I was part of that, like back in 2011. So it was just this like huge nostalgia, I don't know, explosion. I don't know. It was great. It was an opportunity to play the game that I grew up with and really enjoyed back then. Actually, get to get in touch with some of the customs that I saw come to fruition in design. Like I helped with lore behind some of the characters. I got to see those on the board, and that was super cool. Got to see some of the new characters that have come out over the time, and just get to see a thriving community. And that was a very nice kind of like hype up, because it was just like, oh my gosh, Heroscape's still alive, that's awesome. And if I was to say that, like if I was like a reporter or something going around being like, yo, how do I know this game is still alive? ScapeCon is probably the biggest example of that, is that this game is still going, the fandom is still active, and honestly, it's never too late, right? Like you can still learn how to play Heroscape even now. And if there's going to be coaching, heck, come to ScapeCon and learn how to play Heroscape there. Like Or definitely plenty of people will be willing to teach you. Like,
Yeah, that's really
It's
cool.
a great experience. Mike runs an awesome event. Him and his dad are like super cool, and we hold a lot of respect for them because of the work they do for this event. So thank you so much for all the work you all do for that. It's awesome to see the passion thriving even now in good old 2023. You know, Heroscape ain't going anywhere. So yeah, that's my things on that. I'm super excited to be there in August and see all these events in play and see how that goes down. And hopefully I don't know. We'll see if I'll win something. I don't know. We'll see. I have to practice. You know, I got to get better at my because I definitely did a lot of random calls last year, and you know, let's not do it. I shouldn't do random calls. I should actually like prepare my brain for this. But no, it's definitely a lot of fun. Definitely a super cool event to check out. Yeah, I don't really have anything planned out this week, but as always, if you do have any curiosities about lore or anything like that, narrative design and stuff like that, you can always check out my channel at the Eslam Collate at YouTube, or you can actually find me by a handle now. They do little YouTube handles. It's at the Eslam. You can type that up in the Google search and YouTube search, and you can find me there. I've been fiddling around with some ideas. I do want to get back into doing YouTube shorts for Heroscape lore. That was a project I started from last year. Took a break, had the holidays, trying to get back into that. I have some ideas I'm going to knock out for those and kind of catch everyone up, or you know, tell everyone the story that they may have not known about the Heroscape universe, and then kind of explain all that stuff behind that. And working on those. Other than that, playing games here and there. The game that I've been playing on Twitch, Not Only 9, has a Kickstarter tomorrow. Starts tomorrow. So we're probably going to be reviewing that and showing off that. It's one of the YouTubers that I've known for years. He's now making a game. He's now trying to get that funded on Kickstarter. So we're going to try to give him a little support on my channel and show off his work there too. That's some of the stuff I've been working on, but definitely all the lore stuff. If you ever have any lore questions, feel free to ask me. You can ping me on Discord, ping me on Twitter. I'm always around to talk some crazy narrative stuff. But yeah, that's everything from me. I hand over the torch.
Thank you, sir.
You yield your time?
Sir Joe Crazy.
Yeah, I yield my time. That's the word. I yield my time.
He yields his time. Sir Joe Crazy, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, great show, everybody. Great show, everyone to get a high five. High five. You high five yourself? Is that what clapping is? High fiving yourself doesn't matter. Anywho, yeah, I'm excited for all of you guys to go to ScapeCon. Obviously, I won't be going this year. I got some other stuff planned. Like getting a job. So there's that going on. But on the channel, I got actually one pretty exciting thing. One of the videos, I did a video talking about the C3V wave 23. I did top 5 units. I told everybody if that got 25 likes and more, I'd put out the full long version where I talk about every single one. And somebody had reminded me through a comment saying, hey, this video's got 25 likes. How about that long version? And I go, all right, let's do it. Let's go. Nice. So that's coming out this week. I'm hoping Tuesday. I'll have that done for Tuesday.
Heck yeah.
And then later in the week, won't be, I know, disappointing, won't have a Heroscape video. I got, if you've never heard of or maybe you're familiar with Prop Hunt, I did that on a stream one time, and I had some funny moments from when we played Prop Hunt with a bunch of my friends. So I'm working on that right now. Get that out for Friday or Saturday, whichever comes first. And then so that's exciting. And I don't know what I'm doing streaming tomorrow. So if you have any suggestions, send them my way. I got a lot of games that I can play, or I could do some research for some future Heroscape videos. But let me know reach out to me. Personally, reach out to me and let me know what you would like to see. But otherwise, great show. Ryan, guess what? I am not crazy. I'm Joe Crazy, and I yield my time.
Thank you, sir. Jason.
Yeah, it's just a nice, kind of somewhat relaxing show for me. Sit here, I think I said one sentence the entire time, but hey, that's perfectly fine. Fine for me. You know, it's fun to listen to
we're gonna
stories
clip
of
that
running
sentence.
games. What? Oh, It is fun listening to the stories of running game tournaments. I've done that a few times in the years past, so it's just kind of
Jason,
always
we
fun to hear
need
other
to get
people's
you to
experience
ScapeCon
in
sometime
that.
down the road. We need to get you to ScapeCon sometime because I think you would have a ball with that for sure.
Is it in August?
Yeah, it's in
Yeah,
August.
August.
Doesn't have to be this year.
Okay.
It could be sometime in the future.
Yeah, probably
But-
not this year. Probably
Yeah.
not this year for me. Maybe next year. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Probably not this year. But yeah. Anyway, so I'm Rocker Robotics over on YouTube, and for my next content coming up, and going back to the origins of that name, I just fought at a local robotic combat competition. So we're talking about how the little robot did and the kind of damage it took being beaten up by a few other robots. But yes, and that's also available over at tabletopbattlefield.com. And EmpireUnderSiege.com is my space combat miniatures game, Legends of Caladagia.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Mike, go ahead.
I don't know that I have much more to say. ScapeCon is cool. If you want to play, if you can make it, and you want to play 5 days of Heroscape, I think it's worth it. Obviously, that's for you, the listener. I don't even push it that hard because first of all, like what organizer would say their event sucks, so if ScapeCon, let's be real, if ScapeCon sucked, I wouldn't be telling people, yeah, it's a terrible experience. So but I know from talking with other people, and other people enjoy it, really like it. So it's clearly doing something right. Yeah, I mean, again, it's 5 days of Heroscape. If you're into that, it's worth it. Even if you can't do it every year, if you only do it once, it's still a good experience. Pretty much no matter what skill level you are. We had people pretty brand new to the game, and people that have been playing. For me, this is going to be my 10th Heroscape convention, or my 10th time playing Heroscape in Indianapolis at a convention, right? Because first Gen Con was 2012. I missed 2016, so yeah, this is time number 10. So I mean, that's pretty crazy, and a lot of people come in I've known for 10 years, which is also crazy. So yeah, I mean, yeah, Casters of Valhalla, it's a podcast. Yep. It's kind of cool. We talk about strategy and some maps even, and some cool guests that come on it, and you can give that a listen if you don't mind listening for 2 hours at a time, but obviously take breaks. Don't listen to the whole thing at once. You're crazy if you do. ScapeCon, if you're not going, again, I would highly recommend playing some games with the draft pools. I really think they're going to be a lot of fun for people to try out at home even. Even just the mock drafts with Ken have been fun. If you're in the Massachusetts area, we are running another event on May 20th, another tournament. It's very cool. It is Delta 4x4, VC Delta 4x4, that is. So you bring 4 different armies. You're going to play a different army every round. So it'll be a lot of fun. Very laid back, very casual, but just a great time. So doing that, then ScapeCon. Also, if you're not going, make sure I'll be making sure that this is very public, publicly announced and posted places. But Helen's Rules Twitch, which I believe is Emery48 on Twitch, but I'd have to check again. That is where we will be streaming. We'll be streaming the games, and we will be having commentators for ideally all the time slots. Maybe it'll just be some of the championships. It might be harder to get commentators and stuff, but otherwise, that's it. That's my life right now. ScapeCon, casters occasionally,
finishing school.
Finishing school and the mass events. So, and then we'll have one more mass event, I think, before ScapeCon. I'll need to talk with the game store or the game store owner to make sure we can get another date. I'm hoping it'll be end of July, maybe July 29th, but that is very tentative. Do not mark that down because I don't know that we can get the space at the game store then. So it started out where I was hey, Chris, the game store owner, I was like, hey, let's do the first Saturday of every month, and then turn into first Saturday of every other month, and then we haven't been on the first Saturday for I think 3 months now, or 3 events now, so it's kind of just whenever people can make work. So yeah, that's it.
All right. No, and thank you, Mike, for coming on. Also to Ken for giving a rundown. I know I wanted to, give ScapeCon a fair shake, before, other spots were taken up and before it got too late in the year. So thank you for coming on board here. And I am Ryan, aka Tales of Valhalla. Of course, I do this podcast, the ToV Podcast, as well as a stop-motion Heroscape adventure called Tales of Valhalla: The Aftermath Chronicles, which you can see almost all episodes of Season 1, 2, and almost 3 on YouTube. And I will say before I sign off, there has been a turn of events the last couple of weeks, really in the last year, that I've been following, and now that I'm taking part of, that has really halted my editing work a lot. So all the goals to get the last 3 episodes of Season 3 out are going to be delayed, unfortunately, as well as like a lot of these ToV podcast segments are going to be delayed. And I just want to give a quick take. There's a lot of things happening. I can't say too much about it, but let me put it this way. It involves a woman and her daughter. And imagine, if you will, being a young lady in a different country, and you come here marrying somebody who's living in this country, and they basically shut you up. You have a daughter, then they ship you back to your country, saying basically, you know what, this is how America is. Nobody likes you, nobody wants you. You're worthless. You can't drive. Just go back to your country. Forget your daughter, and we'll sweep you under the rug. And then I'm just gonna file for divorce, and you'll never see your daughter again. And this is the type of thing this young woman was facing. Or this woman was facing. She's not exactly young, but and she decided to come back, understanding the fact that she didn't know what to expect. She didn't understand that she actually had citizenship waiting for her because of something that her husband was keeping from her. There were a lot of things she didn't know. And I say that for the fact that there has been people within this community and other communities that have supported her, that have given her a lot of help through the legal process. And it's still a fight. And one of the things that me and my wife decided to do, because she did not have a home, that we would help house her and help rebuild her life. So that has taken some testimony in court, that has taken 1,000 miles of driving to do, but is the right thing to do. And so it's something that my family decided to do. And and one of the reasons I say that, it's because I know there are compassionate people out there that listen to this. And if you want to find a way to help, please contact me privately, and I can give you some information. There are people who have, and I thank all of you for being very generous in your thoughts, prayers, whatever you can offer. I really do appreciate that. And I also found something disgusting, because I never met this person until they started being with us here. She's actually quite a nerd. She used to do, even in this country that she was in, she did D&D back in the day, and I was just like, you know what? Sometime down the road, there's a game on it I want to introduce you to. So it's fun getting to know as somebody who, even from another country, there's lots of things you can find in common. So definitely rooting for her. And so appreciate the thoughts and prayers, because we're not out of it yet. And there's obviously a lot more to it, but that's all I'm going to say right now. So yeah, message me if anybody wants to send me a private message. Like, I hear your situation. How can I help? Let me know, and I can provide some information for that. With that being said, probably going to be delayed a month or so, and then definitely going to release Season 3. Hopefully by end of May, beginning of June. And yeah, thank you, Marion. For your support as well. They're in the chat, and everybody, thank you for everybody in the chat commenting. Getting this bit by bit, because this has been a dream of mine for a long time, and it'll be good to get it completed and have you all see the ending of this seasonal story arc. So anyway, I appreciate having me being on that soapbox for a second, and see you guys all next time when we do whatever we do for the ToV podcast next time. Catching up on things that I've shelved, basically the last few podcasts probably is what we'll do. You have a purpose in your life. Find it, pursue it, live it. We'll see you guys next time. Bye now.